Boom, we are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the Nolan Hawkeye Anthony YouTube channel. And I thank all of you for being here, wherever you may be, and of course, however you may be listening. I haven't had time to do this, so I'm going to knock it out now. There's been two recent commitments. Down the line, I might do individual videos for this, again, if there is time to do so. But of course, Iowa football and Iowa basketball have both received verbal commitments at very important junctures within the 2026 recruiting classes. For Iowa basketball, it was combo guard, point guard, Navon Shabazz. And for Iowa football, it was Cash Herrera. I think that's how you say his last name. Although you guys know I am a classic last name butcher. So let's start with Iowa football. Since we are in the football season, I want to discuss Cash Herrera. Let me go ahead and pull up his recruiting profile. Iowa went all the way out to the state of California for this commitment. San Diego has produced a lot of top tier quarterback talent within that area. Cash apparently is kind of a late bloomer, although if you really think about it, comparatively speaking to previous recruiting cycles before, I would say, the 2020s, he's really not that late of a bloomer. I mean, the recruiting cycle in football has gotten so sped up. It's crazy. But what I'm starting to notice is for programs like Iowa, kind of how they go about it is they have their initial group of guys that they target, kind of like their first priority, top choice guys that they go after. They try and get them there on the first official visit weekend in June, and they see how many guys they can land out of that crop of guys, and then they kind of evaluate from there. And as far as the actual number of commits that they have post, I would say June, or let's see, January, February, March, April, May, June, July. I would say July. It kind of varies how many commits they have post July, but by and large, I would say that Iowa and schools like Iowa tend to be on the lower side of commits, comparatively speaking, to the blue blood type programs because they are not able to land their first priority, first choice guys as consistently as a school like Ohio State or Alabama. Also, Iowa is not a school that is just going to offer guys in order to fill up its recruiting class as quickly as possible. Iowa, for better or for worse, is very methodical in their approach to recruiting. If they are not sold on a guy being able to come to Iowa and legitimately develop and help their football program, they're not going to offer. They, especially with the transfer portal, they are okay moving those scholarships to the following year's class or to the transfer portal. So that's just a little tidbit there. But nonetheless, apparently Cash Herrera is a late bloomer. I don't really think that's the case. I mean, we're still, we're not even done with the 2025 recruiting class. He stands at 6'3", 190 pounds. He's got really strong frame. He kind of, in a lot of ways, not kind of, he does remind me of CJ Beathard. If I were to give him a Iowa quarterback comp, he is what they consider a plus athlete, which means he's not the fastest guy in the world. He's not a Lamar Jackson or a Jalen Hurd or, one of those guys, but he does have the athleticism to extend plays and keep defenses honest by utilizing his feet. The biggest thing for him that I can see from the evaluations that he has, which I'll pull it up, is his natural throwing motion. He has a very smooth throwing motion and mechanic, and so did CJ Beathard. CJ Beathard, to me, had one of the most beautiful natural arms I've seen. And I think a lot of that had to do with him being a baseball player. So here is the analysis for Herrera. Herrera is all these gosh darn pop-ups. Herrera is a late bloomer at the quarterback position who generated a lot of positive buzz this past offseason. He's a player that the more we dug into him, the more we liked. He was a standout at the SoCal Elite 11 regional camp back in March and showed he could hang with some of the top signal callers in the region. He has a smooth, easy delivery, and the ball jumps out of his hands. So that means he has pop in his throws. He has a projectable 6'2", 6'3", 185, 190-pound frame with plenty of room to add good weight. He's a traditional pocket passer, but shows good mobility and can make plays off script when a play breaks down. He has a good feel for the position in terms of throwing on time and with anticipation, and can get the ball out quick and from different arm angles, not for show, but for necessity. He's a tough kid as well and will stand in and take a shot, and get a throw off, or in order to get a throw off. He's a player that is trending up for us and projects as a high major power four prospect. So there you go. So it looks like he is one of those classic prospects that kind of pops up out of nowhere. There's a lot of buzz around him. Let me go back to his On3 profile. He has a grade of an 86 by On3, 86 by 247 Sports, and 5.6. Again, he's only a 2026 prospect. So comparatively speaking, based on what I know with the recruiting services and kind of how it goes, the earlier in the process, the lower the ranking. Okay. For example, him being graded as an 86 right now is the equivalent of him being an 88 or an 89 when the process is all said and done. And the reason why these recruiting services do this is because, of course, they are rating them as juniors and sophomores in high school. Okay. They are not at their peak in the high school ranks until their senior year, realistically speaking. So his ranking will improve. How much? Time will tell. Whether it's 1 point, 2 points, whether he becomes a 4-star. But this is a really good get, guys. I got to credit Tim Lester on this. He comes from a great high school. To go down to the state of California and pull a kid from Southern California to go to the University of Iowa is a tall order. Not that the University of Iowa is a bad place to go to school or anything like that. It's just a wildly different area. Background, culture. I mean, it's night and day. And I know this because I live in California and I have family that lives in Iowa. It is different, and that's okay. But nonetheless, it is a tall order. And I think that speaks to Tim Lester. I'm going to talk about in a few moments kind of what my read on the job Tim Lester has done thus far in recruiting quarterbacks in a moment. Here were some of his offers. He had an offer from UCLA, Minnesota, Washington State, San Diego State. So yeah, again, compared to Virginia Tech, Columbia, Yale, Oregon was looking at him. Comparatively speaking, this early in the process, he actually has a really solid offer sheet. And had he played it out, I guarantee there would have been several more Power 4 level schools that jumped in. So to wrap this up, I want to give my analysis, and he's rated as the 44th and 43rd best quarterback. Just to compare that, let's look at the quarterbacks that Iowa had. And by the way, guys, he joins Carson Nielsen, the 4-star offensive tackle out of the state of Iowa. He's a top 3 prospect by all the recruiting services. 1, 3, 1, 3. So he's anywhere from 1 to 3. Let's see 2025, see where Jimmy Sullivan is rated. I kind of see Cash Herrera and Jimmy Sullivan in the same kind of area. Um, they both have different strengths. I think Jimmy Sullivan is probably a better um, athlete, slightly, not too much. I think I don't want to give you guys any misnomers here. I mean, again, Jimmy Sullivan is not going to be a 4-4 type guy, but he is considered a plus athlete, a guy that can make plays. I would say a level above what we see from Cade McNamara, and 2 levels above what we would see from Nate Stanley. Again, how I would describe it is a CJ Beathard type guy, a guy that can extend plays and can surprise you with his feet and will have a couple of 100 yards on the ground, but it won't be anything crazy. It'll be something that is an addition to, but that is not their primary skill set. But they both have about the same level of offers. You know, Jimmy Sullivan, Illinois, Minnesota, Michigan State. Um, none of them have like, the Ohio State or an Alabama or a USC or anything like that. Can If you consider how early in the process it is for Cash Herrera, I would say that I would give the edge to him, as with time, I think he would have even more offers from Power 4 level schools. So here's Jimmy Sullivan, and he is rated as the 69th, 60th, 56th. So anywhere from top 55 to 70, roughly speaking, give or take, quarterback in the entire country. So he's anywhere from 50 to 70. So Cash Herrera is already a step above Jimmy Sullivan, I would say, in that regard. So Iowa, or excuse me, Tim Lester. Tim Lester, I have been pleasantly surprised. Maybe not pleasantly surprised, pleasantly happy to see what he has done. Okay. So I wouldn't say I'm surprised, because this was something that I knew would be a possibility, but you never know. I mean, Iowa's offense has been terrible, and it's hard for a guy to come in and recruit decently well right off the bat, especially with the type of, or the lack of offensive success that Iowa's had the last couple of years. If you take that into account, I think Tim Lester has done an above average job at recruiting the quarterback position in his first 1.5 years, or year. It spans 2 to 3 classes at this point, because you would have last year's class, but that was already kind of set in stone. But of course, he went into the transfer portal and landed Brendan Sullivan, and he landed the Colorado State preferred walk-on quarterback who had offers from Washington and a few others. I'm blanking on his name right now. And then, of course, you have Jimmy Sullivan, and then you have Northwestern's former coach, Pat Fitzgerald, his son, who Iowa was able to land as a preferred walk-on as well. Now you add into the mix Cash Herrera, and I think in his first year, I would give Tim Lester, assuming he's able to hold on to all these quarterbacks, specifically the ones that are still in high school right now, I would give him an above average grade. Okay. I think he has attacked the position in trying to upgrade it and increase the competition level in the room by getting a few different styles of guys. To me, the thing that speaks on his ability the most right now is not his ability to land a super high, 4-star with some of the top schools around the country offering. Okay, that remains to be seen. But rather his ability to land some talented guys that maybe need another opportunity, that if Brian Ferentz were still here, Iowa would not be able to land as preferred walk-ons. That to me speaks volumes of his current first year stab at the position. Again, a lot of this has been done before he has even been able to have any sort of offensive output, Cash Herrera notwithstanding. So it's not an easy thing to do, guys. He did not inherit a glorious, high octane, positive vibes team. Okay. Iowa is a solid program that definitely has some cachet, but the offense does not. So I would definitely give him an above average grade. Let's see I'm trying to find the other guy's name. Ryan Fitzgerald. So, and with his ability currently to go to the state of California and land a kid like Cash Herrera, albeit, again, not a blue chip. Okay. I wouldn't consider him a blue chip, but still a very solid prospect. I would give him an above average grade. Now, time will tell how all of these quarterbacks develop and how it sorts itself out. There's not really a ton of evidence one way or the other. I mean, because at this point, he continues to stick by Cade McNamara, so we haven't really been able to see Brendan Sullivan or this guy from Colorado State or kind of how that's developed the room. And quite frankly, Cade McNamara has had not really a good season. Jackson Stratton is the guy, 6'4", 193 pounds, sophomore from Mission Bay, California. So it looks like Tim Lester, actually surprisingly has some decent ties to the state of California. So time will tell. Once he is able to get more established, assuming Kirk Ferentz stays for a couple of years and all of that stuff, will he be able to land a 4-star prospect with multiple really solid Power 4 level offers? We'll see. I mean, Iowa has landed 4-star quarterbacks in the past. I mean, Spencer Petras was rated as a 4-star by, I think, at least 2 of the recruiting services. Okay. So it's not like Iowa has done terrible at recruiting as far as like the rankings go. But you have to take the whole picture into account to judge kind of how a quarterback's coach is recruiting the quarterback position. So again, time will tell with that. I'm trying to remember all the guys that Brian Ferentz landed. I mean, you would have Alex Padilla. He did land the kid that's at Ball State now, who I thought Iowa should have tried to make into their starter. I'm blanking on his name, unfortunately. Too many names to remember. Joey Labus was actually a 4-star by 247 Sports as well. He was recruited in the Coof year. Iowa was actually pretty lucky to be able to find him. All the reports were that if it was a traditional normal year, that he would have had way more offers and way more competition for Iowa to get his commitment. They just defeated San Diego State. He had 275 yards, 1 TD, 1 INT. So again, Iowa has recruited that position okay in the past. It's the big picture, walk-ons. How competitive is the room? How are the guys performing on the field? Are they good for the system that you're trying to run? All of that. And I think currently he's moving in the right direction, minus this, for me personally, trying to fit Cade McNamara into the system when I don't think Cade McNamara is the best choice for his system. All right, guys, moving this on to Navon Shabazz. This was a pleasant surprise. I was not expecting this. I don't think any of the Iowa sports insiders were expecting this. Most people, I think, thought that he was going to be going to Iowa State. Then he has a visit, as Iowa basketball has frequently done. They utilize Iowa football and the cachet that Iowa football, the whole football experience to bring basketball recruits on campus. Now, Iowa is not doing that well in the 2025 recruiting class, but that's a different thing to discuss, which I may do down the line here, as they pretty much missed on all of the targets that they were in on and had official visits from. But again, in the era of NIL, it is very difficult to assign full blame to the coaching staff, especially if you know that the program doesn't have that much NIL money. And apparently, Iowa basketball is middle of the pack at best in the Big Ten as far as NIL resources. So again, that's a different story for a different day. The long and the short on Navon Shabazz, it's very early in the process, so these rankings don't accurately reflect what he's going to be. I think he'll be a low 4-star to high 3-star prospect. He'll continue to be a top 200, top 150 prospect in the country, which is solid. Anytime you can land a top 200, top 150 to 200 prospect in basketball from your home state, that is a good thing. And Iowa basketball has had varied levels of success in recruiting high caliber talent from the state of Iowa. So I think that he'll end up being a high 3-star, low 4-star, which is good. If I had to give him a player comp based on his size and kind of what I'm seeing from his game, I would give him a Tony Perkins comparison. He's 6'4", 170 pounds. Currently, he mostly plays point guard. But time will tell. I mean, if he ends up growing another inch or two, will he develop mostly into an off-ball 2-guard that can handle the rock just as much as the point guard? Time will tell. But that is my player comp. I think Navon Shabazz is probably a slightly better shooter at this point in time. But they both have very similar games. They get to the rack, they play physical, they use their size to their advantage. So I was just watching some of his highlights. I think this is probably from the Iowa tournament in the Midwest, possibly in the state of Iowa. He actually has a really smooth jump shot, honestly. I would actually take that back and say that based on his shooting form, which is the primary thing that I look at, especially when watching highlights, because when you watch highlights, you can't get the fullness. Are they shooting 20%, 30%, whatever? So it's hard to gauge based off of the shots that you see them make. Rather, I look at the shooting form. He has excellent shooting form. We'll just watch this like one little thing here, because I can almost guarantee QV will give me a copyright strike. But he gets here, does a little jab step, pull back, creates the separation, smooth jumper. So this is a great get. I think at this point he's coming to Iowa as a combo guard. Not really either one. Again, he's a 2026 prospect, so it's definitely within the realm of possibility that he grows 1-2 more inches. I can see him playing 2-guard. I can see him playing the 1. If he continues to stand at about 6'5", 6'6", I think he should be moving towards the 2-guard spot as a shooting guard that can really handle the rock and help out with ball handling duties, as Tony Perkins did. And then as his career progresses, it could be quicker than Tony Perkins. He can move over to the point guard position. So, but again, you can be a tall point guard. I mean, that's in this day and age, that is definitely something that's possible, but you also have to be able to guard opposing teams' point guards as well. He had good offers, Wake Forest, Iowa State. I think Iowa State offering him says a lot, as Iowa State definitely has an elite basketball program at this point. So this is a really good get. As to why he said he committed to Iowa, it's because he could tell that Matt Gatens really wanted him. They made him a priority. He felt the love, and so he chose Iowa. Matt Gatens continues to recruit really well. Again, the 2025 class notwithstanding, but Matt Gatens has been the primary successful recruiter for the Iowa Hawkeyes coaching staff the last year or two, as I said he would be. He's young. He played for Iowa. He's well-spoken. He's got, he played overseas professionally. When he goes to recruits, he can say, I did it. I played at the highest levels, and it gives him some cachet to sell to the recruits. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for listening. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, share. You guys know the drill. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy willow on facts or feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. I love you, Hawk fans. See you guys next time. Go Hawks. Bye-bye.